Still don't see it.
Should be good in a couple seconds. Good.
No.
Should tweet at some point. Yeah, all right. It's up there now. If you want to retweet that. On the
looking
radio
right now.
network. The radio network account.
Give me 1 second to get to it. Oh, that's open. Fuck, I just had it.
All right.
Come on. There it is.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 126 of the Salvaggio and Cratty Sports Podcast. Back for you here on another Wednesday night after a week off. January 18th, 7:19 p.m. We'll be starting off with football this week. Instead of, the typical moments of the week, we're going to save that a little towards the end. Switch up the structure a little bit. But before we get into football stuff, Ryan, after the week off, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Playoffs were good so far. Had a couple of maybe you can consider them upsets. Bruins are still playing well. Red Sox are doing some things. So all things considering, doing pretty well. How about you? How are you doing?
I'm fine. I mean, as long as the Bruins are just playing this good, I mean, I can't.
As long as they continue to be a wagon and no one seems to be able to stop them.
Yep.
Okay,
I mean,
fair enough.
Pretty ridiculous. Like, we really haven't had anything negative to talk about this year, to be honest with you.
Not really. I think
the occasional injury.
Yeah, I was just going to say the only negative thing from recently is the DeBrusque injury, but they've seemingly kind of put that in the rearview mirror too, and everyone's playing well still. So nothing too crazy.
Yeah, can't really complain, but we will get to the Bruins later. Actually, I forgot to pull up the little Twitter stream here. We'll start with football and our 2022-2023 season studs and duds, the last of the season.
Yeah, so like I texted you, I think last week, maybe the week before, I went through, tallied up all the studs and duds from the season. I kind of grouped us together when we had certain guys on and off. And I thought instead of doing, because it's obviously been 2 weeks now since the last Pats game against the Bills, didn't really need to recap that game at all. Anybody who watched it saw what happened. Kind of the writing was on the wall with the Patriots when they had to, choose their own destiny type of thing. Didn't work out. So instead of doing the studs and duds from that game, I thought, like you said, we'd pull together ours from the entire season. I will start with the studs, or my number 3 stud. I had Josh Uche, a guy that really came on strong halfway through the season and finished up pretty strong. When it came to the times he was on the studs list, only twice that was tied for 6th. But like I said, he really came on strong at the end. 15 games, 27 tackles, 11.5 sacks, 14 quarterback hits, 9 tackles for losses, and 2 forced fumbles. You could argue, I think maybe on the outside of Ramondre Stevenson, had one of the biggest leaps on the team from last year. Look at his stats from a year ago in just 12 games, 12 tackles, 3 sacks, 4 quarterback hits, 3 tackles for losses, no forced fumbles, but did have a fumble recovery. So that was the only difference from this year compared to last. He was excellent, like I said, down the stretch, and we talked about it plenty of times, really became that 1-2 punch with Matt Judon, and is a guy that I'm looking forward to seeing as the seasons go on. And, hopefully he can have a long tenured Patriots career, because he finally broke out this year. We talked about that halfway through the season too. It's good to see from him.
Yep, absolutely a late bloomer. I'd say biggest one you could pick out from the team.
Mm-hmm.
My number 3 stud was Mike Onwenu. Just, I think the most consistent and at the same time under the radar offensive lineman on the team this year. You could put David Andrews in that camp too, but he missed some time due to injury. I'm giving it to Mike Onwenu this year. There's really nothing to complain about with him this year. Truly, he played just over 1,000 snaps with 1,046, only allowed 1 sack, 1 QB hit, had 0 holds, led the team in total snaps played, allowed the least amount of sacks, and took the least amount of penalties. It's crazy how he dropped so high, so low in the draft. This is a guy that should have been a first or second round pick.
Yeah, he's excellent. You could make a case
big
too.
Guy either. Like,
No,
it's
not
really
for that
wild how
position.
good he is.
Yeah, I was going to say you could definitely make a case snub for a Pro Bowl, maybe with how well he played. Because like I put in the outline, I was going to do on Wenu, but again to switch it up, one time on the studs list all season that was tied for the least amount with a bunch of guys. Like you said, incredibly underrated season. He was definitely their best offensive lineman. I think Andrews was in that in the lineup with injuries. It's not his fault. But Onwenu was the most consistent guy. He was in there all the time and like you said, no holding penalties, which was something that plagued this offensive line, particularly in the tackle spots, was excellent all season, as you mentioned.
Yeah, he was just dominant.
Definitely a guy you don't have to worry about moving forward as long as you
Nope.
continue to have him on the roster. Like, don't let that guy slip away because, like you said, he is an absolute steal where he was drafted.
And maybe he'll get some help this offseason.
You better hope so. And the offense as a whole better hope so because they need it, as we know.
Mm-hmm.
Back to mine, my two, maybe no surprise for those who watch. Talk about a absolute steal of a draft pick from where he was drafted third round. Marcus Jones, the guy I'm just putting on this as a utility man at this point because you don't really know. I mean, he is a cornerback, of course, but at this point, you don't really know what his position is with this team. He was on the studs list 4 times this season. That was tied for the fourth most. Going through it, coverage stats. 7 of 31, 310 yards allowed, 1 touchdown allowed, had 5 pass breakups, 2 interceptions, a 55 completion percentage when he was targeted, and a 73.1 rating. For the rest of his defensive stats, 39 tackles, 34 solo, and 5 assists, 2 tackles for losses, and a fumble recovery. His punt return stats, 29 returns, 362, 1 touchdown. Of course, that was the 84-yard game winner against the Jets, 12 and a half yards per return. I believe I had it somewhere in here. That the punt return yardage, the touchdowns, and the yards per return, that led all NFL players. And he was, of course, named to the NFL's all-pro team as a special teams representative. Kickoff returns, 27 returns, 645 yards, 23.9 yards per return on that. And then his offensive stats, 4 receptions, 4 targets, 78 yards, a touchdown, 19 and a half yards per reception. Absolute Swiss Army knife. We said that plenty of times this year. And like I said, for a guy that was drafted in the third round, a decently high pick. But I don't think we definitely expected this type of production from him on all facets of the game and across the board. He was great anywhere he was put in this roster.
Yeah, we certainly didn't expect all this. And I feel like the first time the Patriots have had a gadget guy like this, and God knows how long.
Yeah, I can't think of.
I can't even think of another guy quite like this if he keeps
No.
this up. It's pretty insane. My number 2 stud was Ramondre Stevenson. Had to show some love for him this year. The second-year growth was pretty stupendous. Just over 1,000 yards, only 5 rushing touchdowns. He had 1,040 on 210 carries. So that's about like just under 5 yards a carry, I think.
I think so. Yep.
Good math by me. 69 catches on 88 targets. That's really good. Like only 19 that weren't catches on those 88 targets is pretty stupendous. Again, I don't know why I'm feeling that word tonight.
It's a go-to word
through the air. So 6 touchdowns isn't gonna light the world on fire, but what's that? 1,461 total yards, 6 touchdowns. Just an awesome season. Very consistently the Patriots' best player on offense.
Oh, absolutely. There's not even any question about that. 100%. Like I said, you could argue him and Uche are the 2 biggest guys to take step forwards this season, which is great to see.
A guy you had to have step up to with Damian Harris's health in question for much of the second half of the season. So.
Absolutely. And obviously you don't know what you have in Kevin Harris or Pierre Strong because of obviously the rookie status. So, I mean, we talked about it. He kind of fell off at the end of the season. That was expected though with the workload he had. So now hopefully, you go into the offseason, he gets some rest and comes out and plays as well as he did in the following season because he's probably going to be a guy they have to lean on pretty heavily again with so many questions moving forward. Who knows the direction they're going to go in.
Most definitely.
All right. And then number 1 consensus. If you follow the show all throughout the Patriots season, this guy made the studs list 8 times. That was first by quite a bit. He won, just looking at the poll on Twitter really quickly, he was the fan vote for the stud of the year, Matt Judon. 17 games, 60 tackles, 15 and a half sacks. That led the Patriots. 28 quarterback hits. I believe that led the Patriots as well. 14 tackles for losses. That was number 1 on the team. 3 pass breakups, 2 forced fumbles, and 1 fumble recovery. He had at least 1 sack in 10 out of 17 games. For NFL stat wise, he was 4th in the NFL in sacks, 4th in quarterback hits, and 13th in tackles for losses. We talked about it. Judon was a guy we had a couple of questions going into the season because of how great the fall off was at the end of the season last year. You saw it a little bit this year, but not as bad. And I think we talked about that too. It's just how, teams are covering him differently. Maybe he was dropping into, more pass coverage towards the end of the season, but he put together a really full season, was great again. And again, was the anchor of that defense, it seemed like, throughout the majority of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. And before I forget, because I made me think of this because he's a big Judon guy. Happy birthday to friend of the program, Mike McClellan today.
Oh
He'll
yeah,
probably be
that's
on the
right.
show in a week or two to do his Super Bowl prop bets again. So stay
Okay.
tuned for that for anybody who knows him. Last time we did that, you were gone for something. So it was just me and him. So now we'll have all three of us for Super Bowl prop bets, our Super Bowl special. So that'll be fun.
That'll be
We
good.
did it
Yep.
2 years ago. I don't think we did it last year.
If it was 2 years ago, that was probably my COVID year.
It might have been, yeah.
Yeah,
Honestly.
we had the rotating door of guest hosts at that point because I didn't know when the hell I was coming back. So
yeah, but had to throw the shout out in there. Happy birthday to him, friend of the program. Yeah, Matthew Judon, my number one stud as well. How could he not be an all pro season? Fringe defensive player of the year season, could definitely make the case for him. There. Just ridiculous. Didn't have quite the fall off. You had some hiccups here and there, quieter games second half of the season, but not nearly as bad as last year when he fell off a cliff. He was fantastic. Carried the defense on his back this year, and I am expecting much of the same going forward.
As am I, big Judon fan, big Judon supporter. So hopefully you can get some more of that. And again, with the extra help from Uche, that'll only make things easier for him. It'll be two guys you have to worry about instead of one. And then you throw guys like, we could have had Dietrich Wise. Yeah, he was going to be an honorable mention for me. I think he made the studs list 6 times, maybe 7, if I'm remembering correctly.
Be Anthony Jennings.
Yeah, he had a couple of flashes throughout the season. So
here and there, yeah.
Linebacker has never really been a position of worry or, not the biggest position of need with this team. They always seem to find some good guys, and it seems like they've got a couple of really good ones moving forward, which is good. Again, with so many question marks on this team, that's one position you don't have to worry about moving forward, looks like.
No, definitely not.
All right, on to the dud side of things then, the stinkers from this year. I kind of cheated on this one, maybe because this guy and, this area of the team, I guess, did make the dud list. Surprisingly, only one time this year. I think we tried to focus more so on players, but if you're talking about downers for the Patriots, I think it goes without saying, I have to put Bill Belichick on here and maybe the coaching staff as a whole. Like I said, one time on the duds list, but with how this season went down, he's the main reason I think this team was where they were at. Obviously, we talked about it. Everybody talked about it. Matt Patricia and Joe Judge to run your offense. Set your quarterback back a year after a promising rookie year last year. The offensive line depth, as we saw throughout the season, that turned out to be a disaster. You ended up having guys like Connor McDermott. You had to bring back Marcus Cannon. So, lack of, how do I want to word it? I can't think of the word. Just the focusing on, certain positions needing some more depth that didn't have it. Offensive line was huge. And then something I've kind of nitpicked here. I know Jonathan Jones had a good season. Jalen Mills was hurt. But we talked about it when the year started, and we were both worried. Jalen Mills going in as your top corner, would Jonathan Jones be able to come back off an injury? Played well at times, but again, got exposed a little down the road. Just the ineptitude to, focus on some pretty important positions here. The tackle spots where you struggle, the number one corner. Bill Belichick, for me, has to make the dud list because this whole crap shoot of a season kind of falls into his lap here. You're not a playoff team, I think, because of his decisions. Before the season started, during the season, some of the, the game plan, stuff like that. Obviously, the Chicago loss, we nitpicked that, thinking that maybe they were looking forward to the game after that. Bill Belichick has to make the dud list for me. You can throw Matt Patricia in there as well. But again, it all falls back on Bill.
Yeah, I think he definitely, put them in a position, not completely, but, it's not like he gets all the blame, but
true.
He put them in a position to take a step back with changing the offensive structure around Mac Jones. The play calling, every team has bad play calling sometimes, but, you can definitely accredit bad play calling to, the team's struggles this year. We both expected them to be around like a 7 to 9 win team. They went right in the middle where you said they would be at 8 and 9. I had them at 7 and 10. It was an entirely predictable, chaotic clusterfuck of a season on offense, and it could have been avoided with better business practices. And you have to put some blame on Bill Belichick. And I absolutely think a duds appearance for the final studs and duds of the season is not, too crazy on your behalf.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Didn't have him on mine, but I definitely think there's a case for it. My number 3 dud was Jonnu Smith. They didn't use him a lot, so I wanted to give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt.
Mhm.
But it's a guy that you're paying a lot to do nothing.
He's had a worse year this year than he did last
Yeah.
year. Like we thought couldn't get worse than what he did last year. And again, like you said, maybe you're not using him right. The offense as a whole was a crapshoot. Got hurt, of course, but yeah, it comes down to that. Absolutely. I didn't mean to cut you off, but just
No, you're good.
you like you said, you're paying the guy a ton of money, and he is trending downward more so than we thought he was at the end of last season. So not great there. I was going to have him as an honorable mention, maybe even my 3, but switched it out last second. I'm glad you had him in here as yours.
Yeah, and as I've noted here in the outline, he had 245 yards to the air and 27 catches, 38 targets. That yardage total was largely inflated by a 153-yard catch. So
when I saw that was a great point by you.
200-yard receiver.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that. I'm like, that's a very good point.
It really makes me wonder, the more and more time passes, I think I know the answer, but why they even signed him in the first place. Like, this is a guy that got a lot more money than he should have, whose best season, I think, is like 460 yards.
Yeah, it might have been his going into his contract year, which makes sense.
Did he get a 4-year, $50 million contract? Am I remembering?
Yeah, I think him and Henry got basically the same deal, didn't they? It was like 4 for 52 or 4 for 54, something along the lines of that.
Jonnu Smith got 4 and 50. That's crazy. And I know you have to overpay for free agents. It's, I think you can make
the business
for certain players in any sport, not just football, but Jonnu Smith, like, I don't understand why they signed him if they clearly don't have enough confidence in him, enough of a plan in him. You think you commit $50 million to a guy, you're looking at around that typical production he had in Tennessee, if not better, around like 450, 500 yards, maybe more through the air. And at least Hunter Henry has made up for that a little bit, but you're just not getting enough production from the tight end position for how much you've committed to it. And the large reason for that is Jonnu Smith.
Yeah, it's crazy to me. We've talked about this plenty of times. The team that had always just bludgeoned teams to death with 2 tight end sets now all of a sudden can't figure out how to make it work. And again,
we're going back to it.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember the first show we had. We're like, oh, we're gonna get the 2 tight end sets back. Like this is the new look offense. We're gonna try and reincorporate this. Nope. It's really just Hunter Henry.
Never even tried it. Yeah,
it's Hunter Henry every once in a while at this point. It's not always like a consistent threat, which sucks. But what a mess the signing has been.
Yeah, it's not been great. I mean, it's a contract that, it's going to be tough to get out from under. I don't know if you're going to be even able to move him. I'm still holding out hope. I don't know if I'm dying on this hill alone here, but I still think the lack of production maybe came from not having a fullback and you had to use your tight ends as blockers more. But then, like you said, Hunter Henry's still able to do some stuff. So why can't Jonnu Smith kind of run the same kind of plays he does, get him involved more? So
yeah, looking at his contract now, if you cut him this year, it'd be just over 19 million dead cap. It drops to 6.4 in 2024. So maybe they cut ties with him after the season and just take the 6.4.
To go from there. Yeah.
Maybe they do it this year. I don't know if they'd want that much dead cap, but he's a non-factor.
Yeah, it's not great. It's a guy, like I said, had a ton of hope for. I thought when they signed him, it was going to take them out of the Hunter Henry running. And then again, you get 2 of them, you think it's going to be great, all, rainbows and everything, ponies and everything. But in the end, it's not the case. It stinks because a guy I had hopes for. Back to me, a guy that we never have high hopes for when it comes to seeing him out on the field, and rightfully so, because he's just bad at everything. He would have made the duds list one more time if we did studs and duds from the Bills game, because he just absolutely blew a tackle on I think it was it the second one, Naheem Hines kickoff return, if you remember correctly. It was one of the ones. Completely whiffed on a tackle, got ran over. But it is Miles Bryant. He made the studs and duds list, the dud side of it, 5 times. That was tied for the second most. His stats on the season, coverage stats, 24 for 45, 326 yards allowed, 4 touchdowns allowed, 4 pass breakups, 1 interception, 53 completion percentage when quarterbacks targeted him, and a 97.1 rating. Some stats on that. And a lot of these are a little skewed. Jonathan Jones leads a lot of these categories, but he was the number 1 corner. So he was going up against the team's best competition. So maybe you can make a case that Miles Bryant should have been worse in these stats, but the receptions allowed, second most on the Patriots, targets second most for Miles Bryant, second most yards allowed, second most touchdowns allowed. It's had the second least interceptions, second worst completion percentage, and the second worst rating for a corner. I don't know why. And, hopefully I think he's an RFA this year. So maybe they don't bring him back. I hope they don't, because I've said it before. I'll say it again. And, watching that Bengals and Ravens game, there maybe is some still hope that Miles Bryant isn't the worst corner in the game, but man, does he give Eli Apple a run for the worst corner. There's really, like I said, nothing he does well on a football field.
Yeah, it's ever since that Isaiah McKenzie game last year, it's gone downhill, because he had some moments before then, but ever since it's just not worked.
Teams actively go out of their way to find him on the field.
Yeah,
like, we know this guy sucks. We're gonna go after him all game.
He's underskilled, so they target him. It was just like, I forget which game it was. I think it was the Chargers. Maybe might have been the Chargers game, but the corner's last name was like Kohu or something. I've never heard of him. He's like kind of a smaller corner, and he was getting targeted a bunch because he wasn't playing well. Like, that's what teams do to bad corners. And when you have a weakness there with Miles Bryant, teams are going to take advantage of it when it, deems fit. And yeah, Miles Bryant is an eyesore to watch sometimes.
That's putting it nicely.
Yeah. Isaiah Wynn is an easy choice for my number 2 dud of the year. He is so bad. I hope we never see him play for the Patriots again. There's always a trend of one Patriots offensive lineman, and even sometimes twice this year with Trent Brown, where one of them is just horrendous and stands out from the rest. It was Marshall Newhouse, then it was Jermaine Illuminor, who actually had a decent season with the Raiders this year. Now it's Isaiah Wynn. I hope the trend ends. But yeah, Isaiah Wynn was so bad. He allowed 5 sacks, 2 quarterback hits, took 5 holding penalties. This was while, not playing in every game this season. As you have noted here from Mark Daniels, in 9 games played, he allowed 5 sacks and took a whopping 8 penalties. He finished the year on injured reserve and missed 8 games, but he finished tied with the 12th most penalties in the NFL. He's a complete liability. I don't have anything else to say. I hope I don't have to talk about him next year.
No, he's horrible. I mean, he could definitely make the case for Trent Brown in the spot too. They both finished with the most times of the does list with 6, but for those stats, like you had the Mark Daniels one, Wynn played less, and you still, I feel like, remember him as being the worst of the two. Like, Trent Brown had some moments where he looked like Trent Brown out there. It kind of went game to game. We talked about that plenty of times, where at times it didn't look like he wanted to be out there, but you just knew anytime Isaiah Wynn was out there, you knew you were going to get absolutely nothing out of him, because that's just the type of player he is at this point. He's not good. Do you want to talk about a guy that's undersized for a position? When you talk about Miles Bryant, you've been preaching it for the longest time, move Isaiah Wynn off the tackle spot, put him at guard, because nothing works.
Concept in the positional structure, and
absolutely, makes sense.
Blindside versus not blindside, but in terms of execution, it was not, and just the way she goes.
Nope. Consensus number 1 then for the both of us. I was a little surprised you went Aguilar as well, but that is the one. Nelson Aguilar. I want to talk about a waste of money with Jonnu Smith at the tight end position. Nelson Aguilar is the waste of money at the wide receiver position.
Just three guys with bad contracts in my duds.
Yeah, absolutely. Aguilar, 16 games this year, 31 receptions on 53 targets. That's a 58.5% percentage. 362 yards, 2 touchdowns, 11.7 yards per reception, 22.6 yards per game. That's a great stat when you're paying him all that money that you are. And 2 fumbles, couldn't hold on to the football, as we know. He played 1 extra game this year compared to last year, but had less catches, less yards per reception, less touchdowns, and less yards per game than last season. So kind of like Jonnu Smith, you didn't think Aguilar could get any worse. He did. And again, the offense stunk as a whole. You kind of leaned on Stevenson and Myers more, but I don't know if you knew this. I looked it up the other day. Again, the Buffalo game, of course, being 2 weeks ago, so maybe tough to remember, but he only played 4 snaps in that game, if you can believe that. So I think the Patriots might be done with Nelson Aguilar. We saw that at times this year. Tyquan Thornton played a lot more snaps than he did. Obviously, you had to, put Myers out there, of course, and Parker, but Nelson Aguilar is a guy I hope is done here, just because he literally gives you nothing at this point. Like, you had Kendrick Bourne in the doghouse for half the season, and he was able to do more than Nelson Aguilar, who's given, I feel like, every opportunity to shine and really never did.
Yeah, and I'm just really glad he's a free agent now. 31 catches on 53 targets is fucking pathetic for a guy you pay as much money as you did, Nelson Aguilar. It was a guy I had my doubts from to begin with 2 years ago. He had a career year, kind of a little bit of an outlier in Las Vegas, got a payday because of it. Just, it spelled bad news for me.
Yep.
He became less trustworthy over the course of the season. He was dropping easy passes more and more, it felt like, towards the end of the season, which is not what you want.
Nope.
He's just not good. And his UFA status is a blessing. Just
Absolutely.
say goodbye.
Yeah. If you're him, you hope a crap team that needs some receivers take a chance on it. I mean, maybe you can make the argument that the Patriots are a crap team that needs receivers, but we've been there, done that. Don't want Nelson Aguilar anymore. Again, I was right there with you. The same thing when they signed him to that contract. We both talked about it. I think when it happened, we're like, they need receivers. Again, you said it earlier that you have to overpay to get guys a lot of the time in free agency, but that seemed like the writing was on the wall there that it was not going to work out, and it never really did.
It really never did.
No.
Goodbye, Nelson Aguilar.
Yep. Did have that one nice catch where I can't remember what game it was in, but he mossed somebody for a touchdown. But other than that, name me one other good thing Nelson Aguilar did in his Patriots tenure. I don't think you can.
Not a whole lot.
He did make the stud list, I believe, once too, looking back at it. I meant to look.
He had that 100-yard game.
Yeah, I was going to say, I can't remember what game that was, but I was kind of surprised. I'm like, we did have Nelson Aguilar talk positive about him one time this year, but whole lot more negative than positive when it comes to Nelson Aguilar.
Bad football player.
Yep.
What is next? The end of season stuff with a whole lot of coaching staff.
Some uncharacteristic Patriots news, because obviously last offseason you didn't have any desire to go get an offensive coordinator or name coaches at certain positions. This year, it seems like a lot of people thought that maybe Robert Kraft has finally stepped in and told Bill Belichick, you needed to go out, sign some actual guys, go out and name some actual positions. Patriots said they're going to do that. This was, of course, from the big press release that kind of took Twitter by storm on the 12th of this month, saying that the New England Patriots and head coach Bill Belichick have begun contract extension discussions with Gerard Mayo that would keep him with the team long term. In addition, the team will also begin interviewing for offensive coordinator candidates beginning next week. Of course, we've seen that today as you add to the outline. We'll get to who's being interviewed, who's potentially being looked at a little later. But I thought we'd start with the Gerard Mayo stuff because that's kind of been the discussion point for a lot of people. Gerard Mayo, of course, was a guy that was seemingly highly coveted. I think it was the defensive coordinator position for Cleveland, and then the Carolina Panthers vacant. What's up?
Which has since been filled.
That's right. Yep. But Mayo was in on that. He declined to go there and then declined the head coaching position of the Panthers. That led a lot of people to speculate, what could be the Patriots. What did the Patriots say to him to get him to kind of, jump off of these positions? I don't know. We really haven't talked about it because we didn't obviously no show last week. You and I haven't discussed it. I have my thoughts on what could be coming down the road for Gerard Mayo. What do you think, Patriots wise, what kind of made him want to stay here? And what do you think is down the road for Gerard Mayo if you had to speculate on anything?
I think they're saying to other teams, go away, because if we need him to be the head coach down the road, he will be the first guy to get offered the job.
Okay.
So that's where I'm at.
What do you think his position is going to be this year? Because I've seen some people say maybe assistant to the head coach or full-on defensive coordinator. If you had to maybe pick one or give your thoughts on that, what do you think?
I hope it's full-on defensive coordinator.
I do too.
Because I trust him way more than Belichick.
Mm-hmm.
I think him declining interviews in Cleveland and Carolina is a good sign that, he's leaning more this way.
Yep.
And that he's dedicated here, which, I never really had much of a doubt with. He could have left last year and didn't. But yeah, I'm hoping it's a bigger defensive role because, like I said, I trust him more than Steve Belichick. So
absolutely. I'm right there with you. This year.
Lovely.
Yep. This year, defensive coordinator position as a whole, I'm with you on the head coaching thing too. I think when Bill Belichick decides to step away, retire, whatever it may be, I think that's the only thing. You wouldn't kind of make that promise or just kind of throw that out there for Mayo if you weren't thinking down the line, like you said. So I'm with you. I think down the line, you're looking at your next head coach, the New England Patriots. It's going to be Gerard Mayo, because why would you decline a head coaching position with the Panthers or an interview if?
A few reasons.
Well, yeah, that's true. But there's some hope on the horizon. They played well towards the end of the season. They got some decent draft capital, some pieces there. So, maybe Gerard Mayo, a guy who wants to make a name for himself in the head coach spot. That would have been maybe the case to do so this season. I could think of some reasons why you wouldn't want to take the Cleveland defensive coordinator position, because it's Cleveland and they're never really in anything. But yeah, I think this is coming down the line. Whenever Bill wants to leave, gets out of here, I think Gerard Mayo is probably your next Patriots head coach. And I would 100% be okay with that, because I think he's a great coach in the making. You've seen him have success here the last couple of seasons. So right there with you, defensive coordinator this season, and then somewhere down the line, make him the full-on head coach. I think he's more than qualified and more than ready for it.
Would be lovely. Would really be a fan of that.
Absolutely.
So yeah, this time of the year for any teams that, I mean, even teams that are in the playoffs, you see guys taking interviews. We saw a member of the San Francisco staff go to Tennessee today, which will obviously, go into effect next season, not right now when they're in it. But everybody's speculating, guys are moving around. We've seen, I'm sure we'll see plenty of guys with Patriots backgrounds in the mix of these jobs. We saw Monty Austin for it. Become the GM of the Cardinals. Good luck to the Cardinals because he sucks at drafting. Just so brutal. Cyrus Jones, Dominique Easley. Like, I'm trying to find the tweet. Yeah.
Was his pick Isaiah Wynn?
Dominique
Easley,
Jimmy Garoppolo. Good
That's
pick, but
one.
didn't work out here. Malcolm Brown, Jordan Richards, like one of the worst football players I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Cyrus Jones also. Isaiah Wynn, Sony Michel right before Lamar Jackson. Duke Dawson, who I don't think played a regular season game for the Patriots, N'Keal Harry, and Jawan Williams. So,
oh my God.
Yeah, it's just an epically terrible class of drafted players. So good luck to Arizona. Speaking of Arizona, Cliff Kingsbury has made headlines this offseason because he is just chilling in Taiwan and
he dipped.
Sounds like doesn't plan on coaching this year. So
would you have taken him as an OC
if
he was okay? I've seen some mixed reviews on that. I wasn't a huge fan of him, obviously, as we know, as a coach of the Cardinals, but I would have taken a chance, roll the dice on an OC. Again, it would have fit Bill Belichick's narrative, as we've seen the last couple of seasons, of hire guys or bring guys and then are being paid by other teams. So maybe I think that might be why Cliff Kingsbury is now a resident of Taiwan, just taking that Cardinals money for the next couple of years, go out there and lay low for a little bit. Too. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. So he's living the life right now. Like you said, probably not going to be coaching for a while. Why would he? When again, you have the money and the life he's living right now. So he is out of the case. But other names that have stood out from you, or for you, Evan Lazar had his top 5 candidates. Bill O'Brien is, of course, at a lot of people's the top of their list. Cliff Kingsbury was, of course, on that list. Zach Robinson, the Rams quarterback coach and pass game coordinator. Nick Caley, who we saw the Patriots say today, I believe it was. They're going to interview him tomorrow, I think, or sometime at the end of the week. But he is also interviewed for the Jets OC job. I wonder if you're him, which job is more enticing? Stick with the Patriots after they kind of screwed you over last year and naming Matt Patricia, or do you go to the Jets and deal with that dumpster fire?
Yeah, I would say the Patriots, definitely, but at least the Jets have receivers.
True.
Good young receivers and a good young running back in Breece Hall. So
that's true.
Pick what you can.
Pick your poison type of thing. Yeah,
I should say.
Charlie Weiss was also on that list as well. Ole Miss.
I don't want anyone associated with Charlie Weiss.
No,
so I'm out on Charlie Weiss.
I've seen some people that are high on him. Any particular reason why you're?
No, I don't like Charlie Weiss. I don't
Fair enough.
Hire his son or nephew, whatever.
Okay.
Zach Robinson, I've seen a lot of people, say they like, but I don't really know a ton about him.
Neither do I.
Bill O'Brien, I'm happy he's in the mix. I don't know if there's any Nathaniel Hackett fans out there, but I hope he doesn't enter the mix here. He is in the mix of the Jets OC job. Frank Reich, I'm all set on. I don't know who George Gozzi is, as we're running through names here. Adam Gase is, not enough of a sure thing for me. I don't really know how I feel about him. And Chad O'Shea, I mean,
wouldn't be the worst, but
wide receiver coach and passing game coordinator in Cleveland this past year. Cleveland was kind of a nightmare outside of the running game at times.
Yeah.
Not like a nightmare, but I think they definitely underachieved.
See, that's what worries me. Again, sorry to cut you off, but that's what kind of worries me about Nick Caley. I know obviously knows the system, but we just talked about it. Tight end coach and the tight ends were not that good this year. So do you trust him running the entire offense? Again, he knows the system, and a guy that maybe probably should have gotten a chance last year. Again, getting screwed over by having Patricia come here. So I'm kind of on the fence with him. I don't really know I don't know if you had any other kind of thoughts on him potentially, or I know we talked, like I said, a little bit about him, but
my big thing I think I gather about Nick Caley is he's one of those guys that comes along every offseason. Starting last year, it's like, oh, he's this young up and comer. I think he falls into that.
Okay.
category, but it's one of those things you don't know if he's actually going to prove to be an up and comer until you see what he can actually do. So
True.
I'm kind of lukewarm on Nick Caley, but I have sung his praises because of these up and comer this distinction he has. So
Mhm.
I'm willing to give him a chance, but if he's not the guy, I'm not gonna lose sleep over it. But
Fair enough.
seems like he could be an okay option.
Mhm. Then you had some other guy or some other news too that broke today. I don't know if you want to touch on the other guys that have come out. I saw the Keenan McCardle one. Did not see the other two names or the other name that you mentioned that you have in the outline. Anything on either one of those two guys?
Yeah, I like Keenan McCardle. I mean, he works with Justin Jefferson. He's got to be,
Pretty good.
somewhat
Yeah.
intelligent.
Yep.
And Adrian Clem, I didn't know this until Mike Reese tweeted out Belichick's first ever draft pick with the Patriots is interviewing for OC. He's the associate head coach, run game coordinator, and O-line coach at Oregon,
Okay.
and
A lot on
formerly
this
coached
plate.
offensive line coach of the Steelers. And another note about McCardle, Chad Graff had this on Twitter saying that McCardle was so impressive in Minnesota that Kevin O'Connell kept him on staff after Mike Zimmer was fired, even though O'Connell had never worked with him. So maybe he knew
Pretty good.
something going into taking the Minnesota job that we didn't. So that's a good vote of confidence from a guy that, had a solid first year in Minnesota, didn't end up how they would like, but I think
Hmm.
Kevin O'Connell did a solid enough job with that team.
Absolutely.
Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, like right now, I think McCardle and O'Brien are at the top of my list, with O'Brien, being the more proven guy, I think being number one.
Yep. Yeah. I've been preaching for Bill O'Brien since we reached the halfway point, I think, in the season, and we kind of figured out what this Patriots team is going to be under Matt Patricia and everybody. Bill O'Brien's my guy again. Kingsbury, I would have taken a chance on if he again wanted to coach football. He wasn't away from the game. But like you said, listening to you, seeing some things on Twitter, Keenan McCardle wouldn't be the worst choice, I don't think. Again, because like you just said, with how well Minnesota looked this season on offense, kind of turning their season around or turning that offense around as a whole. So of course, I'm sure plenty of names will come out. We'll have more names as the season goes on. But right now, I think you and I and a lot of people kind of share the same thought that Bill O'Brien is the guy. Again, familiarity, Alabama have that with Mac Jones as well. So that seems like a match made in heaven. I don't know if they've even interviewed him yet or begun the process. It's all kind of just up in the air, it seems like right now, but I'm sure you share the same thought process as I do, that I think
Yeah.
a lot of people just happy to finally see the Patriots. It seems like taking the initiative to go out and get a legitimate offensive coordinator after McDaniels leaves. You're left with nothing this season, and how poorly things turned out.
Yeah. I'm glad they, didn't wait to the off season to look into this, and they didn't just drop it on
Absolutely.
us in like March or something.
Mm-hmm.
They're getting out ahead of this, hopefully, and hopefully it'll work out for the best. I do like the Alabama connection too, as I feel like a lot of people do with O'Brien.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of the offense, a potential number one receiver the Patriots can acquire is one DeAndre Hopkins that Bill Belichick is on record as loving. That is the word.
Tends to work out well. You heard that
Yeah.
with Hunter Henry in his free agent year, and look what happened. So
Yeah. And Hopkins has some say in where he goes. So I see people worried about the whole offensive play structure, scaring him off. I don't really think that's going to be much of an issue with a new face at OC. And I think Belichick is going to be enough for him. I really do.
the question, because I had this discussion the other day with a couple friends of mine, obviously we just said it, we're high on Bill O'Brien to be the offensive coordinator. If you remember, things did not end well in Houston with DeAndre Hopkins and Bill O'Brien when he was the head coach there. That is the reason
That's the thing too. Yeah. That's
why he was traded out of Houston, was the huge blow up that those two had. If he's named the offensive coordinator, do you think that would sway Hopkins's decision to come to New England and more so be like, nah, I'm good. Thanks for
it's
reaching
really
out, but
hard
no
to,
thanks.
It's really hard to say because, having Bill O'Brien in a different role than head coach might be more appealing to Hopkins.
Okay.
Might just be bygones be bygones type scenario.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of doubt it, but you never know. But if they bring in a guy like McCardle, I don't really see why Hopkins would not.
Yeah, I wouldn't see a problem there. Absolutely. If you had to pick one, DeAndre Hopkins is the new shiny wide receiver for the Patriots, or Bill O'Brien is the offense coordinator, what direction would you lean in?
DeAndre Hopkins.
Would you? Okay.
Yeah.
I
want him. I think he would give us the first true number one we've had in so long.
It's a fair argument. I'm torn between. I mean, I'm with you. I want Hopkins here no matter what it takes. I don't think it would take a lot, as we saw, of course, with that Houston trade back in 2020. All it took was a 2020 second round pick, a 2020 fourth round pick, and what turned out to be, I believe, unless he had a good year that year, I might be mistaken, but basically the corpse of David Johnson. Yeah. So I don't think he really did anything for that Houston team when he was acquired. Of course, the Cardinals got a fourth round pick as well in 2020. So, of course, speculation, what would it take to get DeAndre Hopkins? I saw a Sports Illustrated prediction just looking through Google and everything last night, trying to get an idea. The prediction was New England sends a 2023 third round pick, 76 overall, a fourth round pick, 117th overall, and then a 2024 fifth round pick. Your thoughts on that? Too much, just right? Or would you, yeah? I saw that and I'm like, if that's what gets it done, absolutely do that. I would do that 10 times out of 10.
Yeah. And I think, combining him with a guy like McCardle versus, potentially underwhelming at the receiver position to add and having O'Brien, I think I would take that trade off any day of the week with Hopkins and McCardle or Absolutely. Some other good offensive mind. Mm-hmm. That's where I'm at. I want DeAndre Hopkins. I think, Belichick loves him this much. He's going to get him the ball a ton. This would be like the best, like pure, number one threat receiver we've had since Randy Moss.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't argue that in the slightest.
Obviously we had Julian Edelman for so long, but Julian Edelman's not the same type of receiver.
Different style. Yep.
You got to think of the style here.
Mm-hmm.
DeAndre Hopkins would be a game breaker in this offense with Belichick, having his golden boy and obviously him being a focal point. If you're a new offensive mind in this staff, you're gonna get your shiny toy the ball a lot. Mm-hmm, so absolutely. I have really no worries. I don't know why DeAndre Hopkins would, unless perhaps he didn't want to be with Bill O'Brien.
Yeah, well, I'm everything you said and more right there with you. This is the guy. We've talked about it plenty of times, and there's definitely the eye test to back it up. You see quarterbacks going into their third year, young guys. Josh Allen gets Stephon Diggs. He's excellent. Why am I blanking on? There's another. You saw it with Tua this year, getting Tyreek Hill, of course, drafting Jalen Waddle helped him out a ton. We've said it numerous times. Mac Jones needs that guy, whether that's Hopkins or somebody else. I saw some people maybe say Patriots should try to pry T. Higgins away from the Bengals because their contract situation might get a little scary, having to pay him, Burrow, Chase, Mixon might be coming up. I don't know if he was extended or not. But that situation could get dicey with, cap and stuff like that. So Hopkins is my one. If for whatever reason the Bengals want to trade T. Higgins, that would be my second option. I saw Keenan Allen's name get thrown around, which same thing. Could they pay him or not?
That won't happen.
No, I didn't think so either. But yeah, that two huge things I think the Patriots obviously should focus on. We talked about it. Good to see them getting out in front of the offensive coordinator stuff, and then potentially touching base with the Cardinals. Like you said, just hiring a former Patriot.
Ford,
yeah, some inside workings there potentially on the horizon. So
Hopkins for a fifth and a sixth confirmed.
There you go. Perfect.
Yeah, man, just give me DeAndre Hopkins, give me an offensive lineman, and give me Zay Flowers, BC legend in round 2. And
all right.
We'll trot out Hopkins, Thornton, Myers, Flowers, and Kendrick Bourne next year and have people from Mac Jones throw to, and all will be fun.
It'd be great. Get some protection for him too, and you'll be good to go.
Yeah, there we go. Just get a little Paris Johnson going in the first round, Peter Skoronski, one of those linemen,
Perfect.
Help the boy out. Wild card round. 49ers and Seahawks got it started. The 49ers predictably beat the Seahawks 41-23. Brock Purdy looked a little shaky to start, but rounded into form and continues to instill hope in 49ers fans. If he is the future, or at least the, somewhat, short-term future next year, or not, they just, want to feel comfortable in a 7th round quarterback, and he's giving them all the reason to be. And he carried the 49ers even after a rough start to the win, along with Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel being themselves.
Yeah, just another vintage Deebo playoff performance, 6-133 and a touchdown at 74-yard. I saw a lot of people call it a screen pass, which it wasn't a screen pass. Like I don't know why we consider it that. Christian McCaffrey, I think we talked about that. You know, he's gonna be the guy I feel like they lean on in the playoffs just because they have so many weapons on offense. And then you don't really even have to have Purdy play that great. And you can still, I know the Seahawks, you know, people argued maybe shouldn't have been there with how the season ended for that, how they kind of played down the stretch, you know, not a overly great team by any means, but you know, Purdy didn't have to play great for the Niners to be able to beat the bag off of them. We talked about it before. The 49ers can win in multiple ways. You saw that on Saturday. Their defense stepped up when it needed to. Their offense just bludgeoned people to death. Like that's what this team is. That's why they're so scary. And again, we talked about it when I was texting you earlier. The fact that the Cowboys are favored, as we'll get to a little later in that. The fact that the Cowboys are favored against the Niners by ESPN's prediction kind of percentage stuff is mind-boggling to me, because the 49ers, I think, as I've talked about before, are probably the most complete team in the playoffs right now.
Yeah, I agree. And you know, on the flip side for Seattle, I mean, you have to be happy even with the first round loss. I mean, This is a team that easily could have went like 3-14, maybe worse. And you played a playoff game and you saw great production from your 2022 draft class. There's reason for hope, and you were out from under the, you know, shitstorm of Russell Wilson that we saw in Denver. I mean, you got to be happy if you're a Seahawks fan. So
you're out of that, and he got you a good draft pick. Like,
yeah,
you make the playoffs, you get a high draft pick. Like, nothing to complain about if you're a Seahawks fan.
Yeah, and you still have your own as well. So you have 2 first-round draft picks in the top 20. I believe the second one is 20th. The Denver pick is 5th. The Islanders just scored. That stinks. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, San Fran expected to win, and they did. Took care of business. The most wild game of Wild Card Weekend was absolutely the Chargers and the Jaguars. I saw a video of a guy that literally took a nap after halftime. That was a Chargers fan, and he woke up to the demise of the Chargers. One of the worst losses you'll ever see in sports. I was ready to turn the game off in the second half, but
I did.
I'm glad I didn't.
Yeah.
I lost focus for a while, but I never fully turned the game off.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad I didn't, because I was like, oh my God, 27-0. This is freaking bizarre.
Yeah.
But
I turned it off at halftime because I think the Bruins and the Celtics were both on that night. So I'm like, screw this. I'll watch both those teams. They're more competitive. This game's over. I was texting you during it. I'm like, Trevor Lawrence looks like last year's Trevor Lawrence, where he's just throwing the worst passes you've ever seen.
3
the worst.
for 13 with 3 picks at one point.
Yeah. Oh, he was
4 pick. Well, finishes with 4 picks. You can't lose to a guy that throws 4 interceptions.
No, well, that's what I mean. The Chargers win the turnover battle by a large margin, 4-0, and you just absolutely crumble in a huge spot.
4 interception performance and a 4 missed extra point performance.
Talk about a wild card weekend.
Yeah, it lived up to the name. It was a ton of fun this weekend. Not if you're a Chargers fan, though. The Jaguars took a victory lap on one TikTok user who was calling their offseason terrible and why they're going to be bad this year. Then you have Zay Jones, who they committed to for a few years, Christian Kirk, who they threw all this money at, and Evan Ingram, who I believe signed to like a pretty lucrative 1-year deal. All get in the end zone and combined for like, what is that, like 260 something total yards. So
probably. I'm not going to do the math because I'm not good at math, but I'll take your word for it.
Last laugh on that guy, and I mean, they really have built something around Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah,
I will stand by my take unless things get bonkers here. I need to see it for a full season. You
know what? That's fair, because, like you said, the guy was.
I mean, he did start out with
at one point had 3 completions and 3 interceptions. Like, it was not. Again, he looked like he'd never played football before watching the start of that game, and it was
brain. Trevor Lawrence is still there.
It was a clear-cut case, though, of like you could see first-time playoff jitters. Like, the guy was a little nervous coming out of the gate, and then just completely locked in. Yeah, absolutely.
Multiple guys.
Yeah, but that's expected. I mean, first playoff game, but I just don't get the Chargers, man. I mean, it's the same thing with the Buccaneers. You have great running backs, but you can't run the ball. Like Austin Eckler, watching the beginning of the game, gets going, scores their first 2 touchdowns, has 5 rushes for 29 yards on the first 3 drives. The rest of the game, 8 rushes, 6 yards, 2 receptions, 8 yards on 4 targets. Like, I just the Chargers are such a stupid football team to me. I don't get why you have a 27-7 lead and you're still throwing the ball as much as you were. Like you don't. I know Joshua Kelly had a couple of decent runs. Austin Eckler, a lot of his second half runs went in the wrong direction. But you have a mobile quarterback too in Justin Herbert. Like you should be able to run the ball, kill the clock a little bit. Again, it just goes back to I think Brandon Staley is a complete moron. They fired the offensive coordinator. Who someone's going to take the fall for it, I guess.
Receivers coach and linebackers coach as well.
Yeah, all gone. Yep. So I guess they'll take the fall for Brandon Staley being a moron. Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. I feel like until he goes, you're going to have the same situation with this team because they're at this point they're literally the Falcons of the AFC. Like they find ways to lose games and just characteristic, not uncharacteristic because that's what they are, but just unfathomable ways. And again, it rears its ugly head on Saturday night in an epic proportion. I think it was the third largest come from behind victory in playoff history. I think it was.
Sounds right.
Yeah, yep. I have it in the outline. I don't know why I just couldn't find it. But yeah, Jaguars joined the Bills in 1993, coming back from 32 down, and the Colts, led by Andrew Luck in 2014, coming back from 28 down against the Chiefs.
That's insane.
And now no one is giving them any sort of chance on Saturday again versus the Chiefs this week. We'll get into that a little later, though.
That would be so funny to see them beat the Chiefs.
Oh, it would be awesome.
Yeah. Next up, we had Dolphins and Bills. Bills win 34-31 in an unexpectedly close game. Mm-hmm. Skylar Thompson had a terrible stat line, but made some decent throws. He finishes 18 for 45 for 221 pick, 2 picks, 1 touchdown, and was sacked 4 times. I'm chalking a lot of this up to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle practically being non-existent in the first half.
Yep.
Jalen Waddle had 3 drops.
So he couldn't catch anything.
He couldn't do anything until the end of the game. Tyreek Hill, I mean, a guy you really never have to worry about drops, had one of the craziest drops I've seen all season, just right in his hands. At one point, it was probably a 15-yard gain. I think Skylar Thompson was let down primarily in the first half, and I think, a couple of those big plays converting could have made a big difference for the Dolphins. It doesn't, and it stings when you lose by 3 points. I almost said 3-0.
But really shitty playoff game.
Yeah, that would be pretty terrible. But credit to the Bills as well. They had their big guns ready to roll. Josh Allen threw 2 picks, but he managed to hit Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs for a combined 227 yards and a touchdown. They did enough to win, but I have to imagine the Bills we're going to see a different Bills team this weekend because they know, if the Dolphins can keep it close with Skylar Thompson, the Bengals can absolutely do so and then some with Joe Burrow.
I was going to ask, is your confidence shit? Because I don't know who you had. I can't remember who we did when predictions wise, who you had coming out of the AFC. I don't know if it was Buffalo or Kansas City, but is your confidence shaking at all on Buffalo with a game like this? Because I mean, if Miami doesn't have one of the greatest horrendous clock management meltdowns, moments, whatever you want to call it, in league history with how they played that final 2 minutes in the course of the delay game on the 4th and 1. You have Mike McDaniels is too busy smoking his joint or whatever the hell, or not joint, his jewel or his vape, on the sideline. Maybe the Dolphins pull that game out. Of course, you're going to give time with the ball back to Josh Allen. Anything can happen, but that game for a little bit of it was not trending in Buffalo's way. And I think the Bills have these moments where I feel like they kind of underestimate their competitors a little bit and maybe kind of sit back and try to just coast by to end games. Cause there were moments in this game where it's like, again, it's important decision-making. Josh Allen still bombing the ball downfield in certain moments where you're up. Like,
dude, he has the best deep ball.
He does. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to sound like I'm crapping on him, but
it's so fun to watch.
It is. You're 100% right. But again, for me, it comes down to you're up. I know you can't run the ball, but again, you have a mobile quarterback. Run it with him. Get the first downs you need. Stop chucking the ball, giving Miami a chance to come back and win the game or tie the game or whatever. But I know I'm trying to drag this question out. Any shaken confidence in the Bills after a performance like this?
A little. Not a
okay.
ton.
All right. Fair enough. What did you think of the end of the game for Miami? Just their decision-making process and that whole debacle of it seemed like every play they got into the huddle, it was 3 seconds left on the play clock. They're trying to rush up to the line, trying to figure things out. I think they burned all their timeouts because they were avoiding delay game penalties in the second half. That was Mike McDaniel getting exposed a little bit here. It feels like of maybe, again, playoff jitters here, not really knowing the situation. And it's crazy that this is what it kind of came down to in the end.
Yeah, I mean, rookie head coach wasn't built for the moment at the end.
No. Field Yates, I wanted to throw that out there too, because when I saw this tweet, it was crazy. Talking about the delay game. Field Yates saying what's crazy about that 4th down delay game is that the original play clock ran down to 14 seconds before the officials bumped it back up to 25 seconds. So Miami had 51 seconds to get the ball snapped and couldn't get it off in time. Like you said, talk about first game jitters for a head coach and just not being able to figure it out, because that was something of some sort of display there. I don't know what you want to call it. Just
verbal meme. The Tim Robinson episode when he's in the car and he says, "I don't know what any of this shit is, and I'm scared," while he's like half crying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, tough if you're a Dolphins fan.
Absolutely really tough way to go out.
Next up we have the G-Men and the Minnesota Vikings. The G-Men win 31-24, pulling off the upset. Daniel Jones, best quarterback of Wild Card Weekend, I think. Saquon Barkley gets in the end zone twice. Daniel Jones is a legit quarterback, and he proved that with his first career playoff win. I think this puts the stamp on it for me that, I'm not going to say he's an elite quarterback, but I'm at the point where I think Daniel Jones is in the very good category. He's been good more than he's been bad this year. He's taken a big step. Brian Dable has been huge for him. And the G-Men are a threat. They're a threat against the Eagles coming up.
I had a brain fart because I think there's a certain quarterback in Dallas that maybe you could argue had a better wild card weekend than Daniel Jones. I know Daniel Jones, don't get me wrong, was excellent all around. But
I'm giving him more credit going, to Minnesota and winning versus, beating a wounded Bucks team.
Okay, fair enough.
Dak Prescott did.
I'll give you that one.
The edge.
All right. Yeah, I mean, like you said, he was great. Slung the ball all over the place, was running all over people. I mean, it was crazy to me watching that game that the Vikings couldn't, like we talked about it before, their whole offense is Saquon running the ball and then Daniel Jones being able to use his legs. 17 rushes, 78 yards for Daniel Jones, 9 rushes. It's kind of crazy. They really didn't use Saquon on the ground much in this game because they didn't have to. Because like you said, Daniel Jones took this thing over. Isaiah Hodgins was great. He continues to break out in the second half of the season with 8 catches, 105 yards and a touchdown.
A bruised foot. You see that picture?
Yeah, that was gross.
Yeah, I don't know how you play on that.
Mm-hmm. But then again, it comes down to the end of the game. You've late game situations. Idiot Kirk Cousins finally waits to show up in the last play of the game, deciding to throw a 3-yard check down on 4th and 8. So
that was insane to watch. That legitimately, like if my brain could spin like a top in my head,
that's what it would look like.
Just there, I was like in disbelief on my couch watching. It was just bizarre. But
I get going to your big tight end, but like maybe having him try to fight through some contact, but not 5 yards away from the first down marker. Like throw it
crazy
2 yards short and see if you can get by a guy, not 5.
Like I think we got to give credit to Adoree Jackson too. Justin Jefferson was just
absolutely, he got locked
6
down.
catches for 37 yards when covered by Adoree Jackson. That's pretty spectacular.
That's insane, yeah. Yeah, but that was the thing too. Minnesota's other than TJ Hawkinson, who had 10 and 129, the rest of their offense, Jefferson 7 for 47. Dalvin Cook couldn't get anything going on the ground or in the air. Thielen has just 3 catches for 50 yards. KJ Osborne had their touchdown, 20 yards. I think Irv Smith mixed in the other touchdown in the air. So like none of the big hitters, it seemed like, for Minnesota really could get going other than Hawkinson. So credit to the Giants for stepping up on both, their offense and their defense, because they played one of their more well-rounded games, I think, all season.
Yeah, definitely. Credit to the G-Men, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. This game was closer than I thought it would be. Bengals and Ravens. Bengals win 24-17. And again, it wasn't all that exciting, to be honest, which is, again, surprising.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Burrow and the Bengals do enough to get it done, though. Wasn't the prettiest, but Sam Hubbard, I mean, you can't talk about this game without mentioning this. Yeah, the story of the game was Sam Hubbard. But with like 12 minutes left, I think Tyler Huntley tries to overextend like he's 6'8". Rookie mistake. Sam Hubbard makes him pay.
Well, do you blame Huntley for that, or do you blame? I kind of put the play calling.
I would blame that on Huntley.
Okay,
that on Huntley for overextending. You got to be smarter with the ball there.
Do you really think a quarterback sneak from the 2 or was a 2 or 3? I think it was the 2-yard line. Like wouldn't you call it on the goal line? Especially, like, I feel like Harbaugh's blaming everybody and their mother except for him because that's how he operates. But like, I feel like that's on him to kind of know the situation. Like, you have a backup quarterback in there that maybe doesn't run this a ton. Definitely hasn't been in a situation like that before in a playoff game. You know, you have obviously two good running backs in Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins that could have pounded that ball in. You're seeing Dobbins now kind of be out talking about it. I put it on Harbaugh to not call a quarterback sneak from the 2-yard line. Yes, Huntley probably should have went into the pile instead of over. Like you said, don't extend in that situation like you're Josh Allen and you have that type of height. But it's just to see that play call in that spot, I was dumbfounded by it because I'm like, you have plenty of other options. Throw a jump ball to Mark Andrews. You know, he looked like he was finally healthy and, you know, was contributing in that game. So to me, the play calling as a whole was weird in that situation.
Yeah, I think you could absolutely put some blame on Harbaugh there, but I can't get over extending there. It's too risky.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I think you got to be a little safer there.
Okay.
But that was a huge turning point in this game. Like, you could honestly make the case, revisionist history, the Ravens might win that game if that doesn't happen.
It's trending that way.
They got the toxicity with, you know, the J.K. Dobbins comment. I don't think there was really any need for that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sure, it wasn't, you know, the best game for Huntley, but I mean, he kept you within 7 points against a team you had no business being that close against.
No, I thought we both thought the game was going to be an absolute blowout.
Yeah, and I think that shit is just lame.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
you think it was a shot at Lamar, maybe too, like a backhanded type of thing, where it was like, because there's been a lot of people that have argued that maybe he's just sitting out because of the contract stuff and wasn't going to play because of that, and there wasn't really an injury. Obviously, we're not going to speculate on that, but that thought maybe crept into my mind a little bit that, you know, maybe he's kind of taking a shot at Lamar here, being like, if you got out here and played, man, we wouldn't have been in that spot. But I'm with you. Like, dude, you can think that all you want. Don't say that, especially right after you lose the game. Like you said, Huntley's, you know, not a guy that is been in that spot or is, you know, expected to do a whole lot in that spot. And the fact that he kept the game close is, I think, not obviously good enough as is. You want to win the game, but you know what I mean? Like, the fact that you were able to compete with the defending AFC champions with your backup quarterback in there is, I think, something to say a little bit.
Yeah, I suppose this game was definitely the least entertaining in my mind.
Oh, it was on too with I started watching The Last of Us right in the middle of it. It's like and then you come back and
multitasking.
Yeah, nothing really had changed in that game. It was close throughout, and then got back just in time to see the Hubbard scoop and score, and that was really the end of it.
Yeah, I mean, you can make the case that Bucks and Cowboys is kind of boring too, but at least, you know, Dak showed out, so there was that to get excited about. True. Cowboys win 31-14 on the road. It's so weird to say on the road because of how bad the Bucks are, but you know, that's just how, you know, division winners work in the playoffs. You know, you get the home game in the first round. So Dak played very well. 25 for 33, 305 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks, 7 for 24, and a touchdown on the ground. This is the Brett Maher game, though. This is a close game. I mean, Brett Maher would be a pariah in Dallas and, you know, other surrounding areas of Texas that root for the Cowboys. Tom Brady threw the ball 66 times in this game.
Ridiculous, yep.
And just put up 14 points. That's just not good enough. I kind of don't know how Todd Bowles has a job. I know Byron Leftwich got fired, but I think Todd Bowles should be too. And I think firing Todd Bowles at this point is the only way you're getting Brady back if you're the Bucs.
Dude, okay. I just think it's especially watching his press con. I don't know if you caught any of his press conference afterwards with the thanking the media and just kind of going on a spiel about them. Like, I took that as, thanks guys for putting up with me. I'm out of here. Like, I'm gonna go somewhere else because I just can't deal with this team anymore. I'm with you. I think Bulls should go after this. You have a horrible season, and then you just bow out in the playoffs in just an inept fashion. I wonder if, as soon as Brady goes, do you get the report maybe that, Bruce Arians is getting a little bit of an inkling to want to come back and coach, and maybe he makes the transition back to the field, and maybe that's something that happens. I don't know. Like I said,
remember that one game where Arians was on the sidelines? He had to be like told to like chill because he's like, dude, like, you're not with the team anymore.
Yeah. They had to like kind of hold him back. It's like, you're not making the decisions here. Like, it's up to Bowles and Leftwich and everybody. But I mean, I was a little surprised Leftwich got canned. I would have thought you move on from Bowles before that. Like, Because
Foles
a
is
year,
a pussy. How can you be that much of a pussy with Tom Brady as
I
your
don't know.
quarterback
Well, I think
at
that
times
shows
this
that
season?
we saw it with the Jets. He's just not a good NFL head coach. Like, guy has not had a ton of success. There's some guys that are just built to be coordinators, and I feel like he's more on that side of it than like the Leftwich thing. Kind of just it throws me because wasn't he supposed like getting head coaching jobs last year, or was getting consideration for head coaching jobs, and then a year later you fire him? Like, maybe I'm mistaken. Maybe I'm thinking of somebody else, but I thought there was some high praise for him in Tampa Bay. I mean, again, maybe it's the Patriots case where it's Brady doing most of the work, but him getting the can was kind of a crapshoot call there.
Yeah, I mean, I just think you got to do both if you're the
Fair,
Bucs
yeah,
here.
fair.
But not a super exciting game for anyone who might be wondering. I don't think this is Tom Brady's last game. I think
I don't
they're in the
either.
same boat.
Nope.
Um,
Where do you think early prediction? Where's he going?
If Tua retires, I think he will absolutely go to Miami, but I don't think Tua will retire unless he has to.
Mm-hmm.
I think he ends up in Vegas.
I do too.
Most likely.
Yep.
Trying to think anyone else. The Carolina one's weird. Like, why would he want to play for Carolina?
I don't see that.
I think people might be connecting that to Sean Payton as well. If Sean Payton were to end up there,
if you're him, why would you want to coach that? Like, that's
I don't know. Just coach Tom Brady. Like, go
yeah,
Brady
true,
goes.
I guess.
And I mean, there's the Gronk stuff too. So I think Gronk, if he's really serious about coming back, goes where Brady goes. So that's another thing to follow in this storyline. But I don't know. I'm leaning Vegas right now.
Yep.
Derek Carr's out. Tom Brady's in. Would suck for Jared Stidham, but I mean,
yeah, that's true. You kind of forget
that
about
would be
him.
Tough for him.
Yeah,
but you gotta.
That's the
cater
one that
to
makes the
goat
most
if you
sense,
got
though.
him.
You're comfortable with McDaniels. You have the top receiver in Adams. They bring I know Jacobs is a free agent. You bring him back. Like, as soon as Tom Brady goes there, you got to think, shit, I'll take a pay cut to play with Tom Brady. So you get something that they didn't have in Tampa Bay, which was a dominant run game. Because like you said, Brady throwing the ball 66 times in this game for a 45-year-old quarterback it's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
Like,
and if you're the Raiders, man, you really got to build up that O line in front of him because Brady is not, as comfortable taking hits as he's never been like, a guy like Joe Burrow. I think he was like is really unbothered by taking hits. It seems, but like you got to build that O line for him. And I wonder if Brady comes if Josh Jacobs wants to stay, but I kind of doubt that. But
no,
we'll see. That's gonna wrap it up for Wild Card Weekend. It was a good one. Can't really complain about too much. But on to the divisional round and the Jacksonville Jaguars, who will take on the number 1 seed Kansas City Chiefs at Arrowhead, a daunting task for Trevor Lawrence and the boys of Duval.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough. Obviously, just trying to think of keys to this game, thoughts, just stuff like that. Obviously, the big one is Kansas City coming off the bye. Is that going to make them sluggish at all? Probably not, because of the Chiefs. Andy Reid gets guys prepared pretty well. For me, it's obvious Jacksonville's going to have to play probably, I'm not even going to say near a perfect game. They're going to have to play a perfect game to beat the Chiefs. You're not going to be able to turn the ball over 4 times and sneak away with a victory because the Chiefs aren't stupid. They're not the Chargers. They don't, not capitalize off of dumb mistakes. So it's going to take everything that Jacksonville has. You're going to have to probably get a solid performance from Travis Etienne. He played pretty well in the wild card round. The Chiefs at times have struggled to defend the run. So big game from Etienne. And then, like you said, for the wild card game, get those guys, those big offseason additions, Ingram, Kirk, Zay Jones are probably going to have to step up. And, Trevor Lawrence is going to have to play obviously much better than he played in, the first half and then the entire game, put together a full 4-quarter effort instead of, having to pull a miraculous comeback out of your behind.
Yep. Absolutely. I really wanted to pick the Jaguars in this game.
I tried so hard, but I'm like, and then I went back. I forgot these two teams played each other. So, of course, a rematch of week 10, Chiefs beat the Jaguars 27-17. So a closer game maybe than I would have thought, or maybe people would have thought. I couldn't do it. It's the Chiefs. They're coming off a bye. Everything's pointing in their direction. They're at home.
I wanted to at least take them against the spread to go Jags plus 8.5, but I couldn't do it.
No,
couldn't do it. I'm going
all on the Chiefs.
23. Then. I'm taking 38 to 23. Geez, not 28 to 3. 38 to 23 Chiefs.
This is for me. I don't know how to take the Chiefs coming out of the bye week. I think there's or the first round bye. Obviously, I think there might be maybe some rust. They might go into this game thinking we're playing the Jaguars, we're the Chiefs. We can just kind of sit back and coast to a win. So I think this game might come out closer than a lot of people think it's going to. I have 32-26 Chiefs in overtime. At first, I had that because I said this game's going to go into overtime. The Jags are going to come back in regulation. The game's going to go into overtime. The Chiefs are going to win the coin toss, walk right down the field and score a touchdown. But then I forgot the overtime rules are different. The Jaguars would have a chance to answer that touchdown if it happens. But I think in the end, the Chiefs are going to, too overpowered. You're probably going to see one of those vintage Travis Kelce's wide open down the field, touchdowns in overtime, and the Chiefs are going to be able to hold on to pull off a win that's maybe going to be closer than it probably should have been.
I can see it, man. I'm a little.
I'm hoping not for
coming off a high from that win.
Yeah, nothing against you. I'm hoping the game doesn't go as you predict, because I don't want to see the Chiefs walk in and just blow doors off a team, and then everyone just the Chiefs are they're so far better than everybody else. They're a lock for the Super Bowl. Like, that's gonna be what comes out of this game is the Chiefs dominate, and they're they're the Patriots now, and
Patrick
everything we've
Mahomes
heard.
Lose to the Jacksonville Jaguars and play bad, so we just don't have to listen to people ball wash him all off season.
People will find a way still.
Crazy.
I'm sure they will. It's just how it is now. You get the idiots that
worst.
think they're already better. He's already better than Brady. They're already better than the Patriots in their heyday. Like, I'd love that too. Just shut everybody up right then and there. The Chiefs lost in their first playoff game of the season to the Jaguars, but it's such a tough task. I don't think it's gonna be the case, unfortunately.
I don't either. Another one, I want to pick the underdog is Giants and Eagles, but I
did
can't.
Too in this one. Yep.
6 seed G-Men versus the 1 seed Eagles. The line is Eagles -7.5. Over under is 48. This game, obviously, is gonna come down to how much Daniel Jones can take it over. If the Giants want any chance, because with that, lackluster receiving core at any point, they cannot be enough. The Eagles can overwhelm them with their potent offense and, more often than not, pretty solid defense. The Eagles know how to beat the Giants. They've done it twice this year.
Yep.
And I think they will do so again.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. This for me comes down. The only question for the Eagles is how much did the bye? Again, it comes down to the bye, being the 1 seed. How much did that help Jalen Hurts? Is he fully healthy going into this game? Is he still kind of banged up? And can the Giants take advantage of that? Because you saw, week 18, obviously they weren't playing for anything, but the Giants put up a fight, 22-16. That week 14 game, it was all Philly, 48-22. I think Miles Sanders had 2 rushing touchdowns in that game. Hurts factored in with a couple of touchdowns on the ground. Philly's been able to run all over them in the 2 matchups they've had. So that's the big thing for me is, can the Giants, they limited, again, Dalvin Cook in that matchup last week. Can they do it again this week against the Eagles? That's a much tougher task, because the Eagles obviously pride themselves on their ability to run the ball. I'm with you. I wanted to pick the Giants as an upset because I think it's so tough to beat a team 3 times in a season. But it's just the Eagles are a better team all around, better defense, better offense. And, I'd like to see, like you said, Daniel Jones be able to stick right there with them. But if the game ends up being a shootout, I just don't see how the Giants offense is able to keep up with Philadelphia's.
Yeah, and both of these games are involved the 2 teams left that I dislike the most. So I would love to be wrong on both of these. Next up, we have what should be the best game.
Did we say our score prediction? Sorry for the.
Shit.
I don't think we did. No.
I'm going 38-20 Eagles, and it pains me to do that.
Absolute blowout. You got 2 blowouts to start, which I don't like. I'm sticking close. 27-18 Eagles. Like I said, their offense is just going to be able to suffocate the Giants, or the defense rather is going to be able to suffocate the Giants.
Yeah, I think Jalen Hurts, the potential for a statement game is there, and I think we see it.
Yep.
Bills and Bengals. Bills at home in this one. Maybe some, unfinished business with, the game that was never able to be finished because of the DeMar Hamlin situation. This game is going to be insane.
Going to be the best game of the weekend by far.
The line is Bills -5.5, over under 48. I went so back and forth in this one, as I feel like everybody is, and it's going to be so fun. I can't fucking wait.
Yeah, it's going to be great. I did not go back and forth. I stuck with this. I think I mentioned a couple weeks ago, or just mentioned it in passing. I think the Bengals are playing pissed off. I think there's some merit behind them. I think maybe thinking they've been counted out in these playoffs, with everyone already talking about, if it's Bills and Chiefs in the AFC Championship game, it's in a neutral site. There was a lot of talk of that. No one really mentioned the Bengals. You obviously have a stinker game for the Bengals for the most part. You're just being able to beat the backup led Ravens. I think the Bills, like I said, maybe got exposed a little bit in that Dolphins game, thinking that, they're the Bills that can just walk through things. To me, it comes down to which one of these two teams makes the least dumb mistakes, or doesn't make the painstaking or backbreaking mistakes. Buffalo, you saw it in that game. Josh Allen had two bad picks, maybe. One of those balls was tipped, but I think when it comes down to it, Allen's, I think, more prone to make the dumb interception and the bad turnover than Burrow is. So this is my one upset of the weekend. I have the Bengals beating the Bills 33-30, maybe a last second field goal or a last second maybe touchdown drive for Joe Burrow. And it's the one game I have different from you, like I had last week with the Giants game. Everything else has been the same except for this one.
Yeah, this is the one game we differ. I'm going Bills 36, Bengals 33 in overtime.
All right.
Give me an overtime game this weekend, damn it. I need it, please.
There's always one or two, so I think you're in for one here. I definitely could see it.
Oh, excuse me. The final game of divisional round weekend is Cowboys and 49ers. Cowboys travel to San Fran. The line is 49ers -4. Over under is 46. I think that over should hit fairly easily. This has got to be like right there, if not close to like being the game that everyone probably expects to be the best game of divisional round weekend, but I got to give it to Bengals and Bills.
Mm-hmm.
This one should be really fun though. The Cowboys put a statement out there, beat Tom Brady for the first time. This could be a crazy game.
Bengals and Bills, to me, has a chance to be the best offensively played game, just high flying back and forth all night long and maybe into overtime as you have in your prediction. This one I feel like could be not boring, but like nitty gritty defense. Someone's, going to have a pick six or a scoop and score. Again, like you saw in the Bengals game to win this game, because obviously two very good defenses. You can make a case, the two best defenses in football going at it. You saw the Cowboys obviously shut down Brady and the Bucs. Maybe not the toughest thing to do. But obviously the Niners, way more weapons, definitely not as an experienced quarterback. So there's obviously that factor with Purdy. So that's kind of the big thing for me. Can the Cowboys make Brock Purdy look like a rookie and shake him a little bit? Can the Niners, they're probably going to have to lean on Christian McCaffrey or get Debo going in the run game. Can they do that against a pretty good run defense in the Cowboys? It's going to be tough. I think the 49ers will pull it out though, 26-23 on a last second, gut punch field goal to send the Cowboys home. All this hype for the Cowboys after this huge win, first road win in whatever it was, 30 plus years. That's all going to come crashing down this week.
Crash and burn it down to the ground.
Yeah, down to the ground.
Down to the ground. I am going 49ers 34, Cowboys 24.
Got a lot of big scoring games this week. I like it.
I do.
A lot of offense.
Points. I love the points.
Points.
Go over in every game.
All right. We'll see.
I love overs this week if I were a betting man.
Yes, you do.
Should be fun, though. Really good matchups. Can't really complain about any of them, to be honest with you.
No, that's the big thing, too. Like, I know we always we root for the underdogs a lot of the time or some of the time. But, like, these are the matchups you wanted to see. Like, I know from a Brady fan standpoint, we probably wanted the Bucs to win that game against the Cowboys. But, do you really want to see the Buccaneers play the 49ers? Like, if that was the case, like, no, that game would have stunk. The Dolphins, maybe they upset Buffalo. Do you want to see the Skylar Thompson-led Dolphins going to Kansas City? Like, no. So you got the best matchups you possibly could out of all these. Maybe not with the Jags winning. I'm sure people would have rather seen Chargers in the second round. But, the Chargers, again, as we talked about, have not been the brightest team on the planet this season. So, who knows? Maybe, maybe people would have rather seen the Vikings as well. But I think a storyline of the third time of the Giants and the Eagles this season is something. Obviously, division rivals. There's maybe some hatred for those two teams against each other. You're getting good storylines. You're getting good matchups. So nothing to complain about there when it comes to this week of football.
Certainly not. I think he said it quite eloquently.
Thank you. I try. Doesn't always come out the way I want it to, but in the end, as long as I get my point across.
Exactly. On to the Bruins next. It's status quo. It was a tough loss to Seattle to start. It's one of those games where you simply get outplayed.
They had to have one eventually.
But I mean, Olmark played really good. He only let him 2 goals and 30 shots, and you just got outplayed. That's really all it is. Nothing to really worry about. Seattle has really taken a step forward this year after a tough inaugural season, but they did bounce back, beating the Maple Leafs in heartbreaking fashion as they do so often. 4-3 with a late goal from Matt Grzelcyk of all people. Olmark, not his best in this one, 18 saves on 21 shots, but this is a game we saw some fisticuffs. We saw one of the, we were both talking about this, the longest fights you'll ever see in the NHL
insane.
these days.
Yep.
They let Foligno and Simmons go for what felt like probably like a minute 15 seconds. It just never felt like it was going to end. I wish they would do this more. It was a great game, a little bit of a playoff atmosphere, and a good precursor for who's on what level in this matchup going forward. As well, there's a good chance we see it in the playoffs yet again. And then we had the Philadelphia game, a 6-0 win, a trouncing. I couldn't believe that the Flyers had won 7 of the last 10 coming into this, because this team is just so bad.
They blow. That game was never close.
Yeah, we'll talk about them for another reason with moments of the week to wrap the show up. But yeah, Jeremy Swayman first shutout since February of last year. 29 saves in this one. Just completely dominated them. I thought Carter Hart got hurt, but he got pulled just for letting out 4 goals and 16 shots. We saw the 23-year-old prospect goaltender Samuel Urson come in. Played solid outside of the couple goals he let up. Krejci, 1,000th game, is the story in this one, though. I had 3 assists. Zacha was fantastic, at one of the craziest goals of the year that, the pipe ringing, that sound is just one of the best sounds in hockey. Is the Bruins just scores. We're talking about them scoring.
McAvoy with a bomb.
Yep. Matt Grzelcyk, 5 points in the last 4 games, kind of sneakily.
He's on a heater.
Yeah, the Bruins are playing pretty well. It's a tough first against the Islanders tonight, not their best, but as Ryan just alluded to, Charlie McAvoy just sent one home from the point with a little point hammer action. Anyone who knows me knows I love a good point hammer here and there. Maybe another point for Matt Grzelcyk here.
Yeah, he got the initial assist. Definitely. I think. Yeah,
there's another one. He's hot. He's putting up points. Point hammer, easy one-timer. So free for Charlie McAvoy. But yeah, shout out to Krejci. I mean, just a guy. I think one of the things he had to have been looking forward to this year coming back was hitting 1,000 games. The 7th Bruin to do so. In franchise history. It's a pretty elite group. He's getting closer and closer to Phil Esposito for 5th all-time in assists. That's pretty insane given how dominant Phil Esposito was back in the day. Yeah, the Bruins, I mean, what else can you say? They're just really good. They're the best team in the league. They have
how it's been all season. Sounds like a broken record at this point. I've been saying that. I feel like a lot of the times we talk about the Bruins, but that's just what it is. Like, yeah. I said it to you right before, you said it as well, right before we jumped on here. Like, the only negative thing is the DeBrusk injury. Like, and again, the one outlier Seattle game where they played bad. Like I said, you're bound to have one of those. The fact that it came on January 12th, however many games that is into the season, 30 or 40, 43, 42, whatever the math is incredible.
43 games and 44 tonight.
All right, so it's incredible how well they've played. The fact that you look at the standings and their record is currently the 5 losses as we sit here in the middle of January is insane.
Yeah, it's really nuts. They do have the Islanders as we speak right now. Matt Barzal is leading them in scoring this season, 41 points in 44 games. They pretty much just trot out the exact team every year. Same style, similar roster, but one thing I did want to note, they do have William Dufour in the lineup today, making his NHL debut. I think one of the most fascinating prospects out there. A 5th-round pick in 2020, had 116 points last year in the QMJHL, 55 goals and 60 assists with St. John's. He's a big forward. He can score. He's 6'2", 216, has 13 points, 13 goals and 12 assists in the minors this year in 37 games. And he's playing with Matt Barzal and Josh Bailey tonight. Maybe this is the type of guy that the Islanders need, because I really don't feel like they have a pure scorer on their team, and maybe William Dufour can be that guy. Hudson Fashing's been a good addition as well. He's kind of come out of nowhere, been a pleasant surprise for them. But they're pretty much the same Islanders team until they prove me otherwise. They trot out very similar rosters. They have a very similar, slow, methodical style, even under a new coach this year. Pretty much the same for them. Then you get the Rangers on the road, a little New York swing here. Coming up tomorrow night, so back-to-back. Artemi Panarin is pacing them on the score sheet. They're third in the Metro. Panarin's got 47 points in 45 games. They're turning things around. It was a weird start to the season for the Rangers, and it's funny. A lot of Rangers fans will point to the fact when Jacob Trouba had that meltdown in that Chicago game, things have really changed since then, so maybe that was the wake-up call they need. This is a better team than they showed in the first half or so of the season, so maybe they'll go on a run here and take over the Metro Division. Should be a good test for the Bruins and the Rangers likewise. San Jose Sharks, we saw 2 weeks ago, pretty bad. A team that's going to be a seller. Looking for 3 first-round picks for Erik Karlsson. Good luck with that, especially with how good the 2023 draft is, and probably 2024 and 2025 from the early outlooks there. It looks like we're going to get some really stud draft classes coming up the next few years. So good luck trying to get picks in that draft. They're also willing to retain only 18% of that $11 million a year.
So no budge whatsoever.
Actually. So yeah, it's a tough sell if you're Mike Greer to other GMs, especially as a first-year GM. You don't have a ton of leverage, so good luck to him. Sharks are bad. This should be a win. And then you go to Montreal, play another bad team, the Montreal Canadiens. Nick Suzuki's just got 37 points in 45 games. They're not scoring a lot. Goaltending's not great. Defensive depth is not great. But shout out to Jonathan Kovacevic, who has seemingly carved out a top 6 role for himself after being claimed off waivers. So shout out to him. Mm-hmm. Sucks it has to be with the Canadiens, but
yeah, I know, right?
You got to stick where you can stick. It starts, with some tough opponents, but the rest of this stretch leading into, midweek next week and our next episode should be pretty easy for the Bruins. So I am expecting them to keep the ball rolling.
Yes, as am I. A lot of winnable games in the schedule, including tonight. Like you said,
Yep.
That Rangers game will be a good test, seeing that they've turned things around and look like the team they were supposed to at the start of the year. When we were, high. I can't remember where we had them in our preseason predictions, but I think you and I both had them as making pretty lengthy playoff runs.
Yeah, and something I just remembered about the Rangers, they are getting Chris Kreider back in the lineup for the game against the Bruins.
Known Bruins killer, so
yep.
That's not great.
We shall see what happens. Pavel Zacha was into an extension right after the Maple Leafs game, like
quite literally right after. I think it was like the game, let's say, ended at like 10:15. The news came out at like 10:17. Very crazy. Bizarre, but I'll take it. I don't
had to have been intentional. But,
you would think, yeah.
As you have noted here, his first game out of the extension, 3-point night, 2 goals and an assist. It's had a pretty good year. I think 4.75 is maybe a slight overpay, but I don't know. I was expecting something like 4.25 if he gets an extension, or 4.5. So nothing too crazy in my mind. I think, 3.5 was a slight underpay. You can make the case that he got this year, but I think 4.75 is a reasonable dollar for him. 19 million over the course of those 4 years. So they got him locked up through 26, 27. Really no qualms with this. He's starting to score a little more. We saw that in the Flyers game. So maybe, that'll be an added, bonus these next few months of the regular season and beyond. But the player they have in Pavel Zacha, I think is, I think 4.75 is fine for him. And a 4-year term, you're not committing this huge period of time for him. So I love it. And I really don't have any problems.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I think we talked about him either last show or 2 shows ago, where we brought up the point talking about him was like, he had been, I think, struggling to, obviously not putting the puck in the net, but he was doing other things. So he's not like one of those guys where it's like, oh, Zacha sucks because he's not doing, he's not producing in any way, shape, or form. He's still getting other guys involved, still playing really good defense. So yeah, I'm fine with it. He's a guy that, again, is not going to light up the stat sheet on a nightly basis, but does a lot of things well. And seems to fit their system really well. So I'll 100% take it. He gives you a known, I'm trying to word this where it doesn't sound stupid. He gives you a known in the future. Obviously, you don't know what's going to happen with Pastrnak. You don't know what's going to happen down the line with with Bergeron and Krejci from the year-to-year basis. So this is a guy, obviously, good to see him with some tenure now, and is going to be here for a while. A guy that fits the system and has played pretty well in his first season here.
Yeah, and it's a guy that when he was here, he was excited. He's lived here in the past, wants to be here, so it works for everybody, I think. And the Bruins just scored again.
I don't know if Krejci got that or Forbort. The Bruins might have 2 defenseman goals tonight.
Can you imagine if it was Zacha? Right,
that would have been hilarious. Yeah,
that would have been funny. He is on the ice, but it looks like it's Forbort, given the camera panning to him after they're breaking out of the celebration here. It looks like we got 2 defenseman goals here. Pastrnak was on the ice. He's the next guy on our agenda. As the Bruins and him are making progress on an extension. We saw Elliot Friedman Saturday night talk about how they were making progress. And Darren Dreger on TSN's Insider Trading on Monday followed it up with, much of the same little one-tap backdoor for Derek Forbort there. Good pinch. Kind of building on what Friedman said and adding the fact that they're closer than they were a couple weeks ago. See, the thing with that for me is like they're closer than they were a couple weeks ago, and then you have Pastrnak almost putting up 3 hat tricks in like 4 games.
Yeah. Oh, that's what we talked about it all season. The longer this goes on, the worse it's going to get because he's playing himself into a larger and larger contract. Like
it's gonna.
You kind of made that bed, now lay in it. Like
at this rate, it's going to be like that every week. It's like, oh, they're making a little progress, and they're making progress because they've had to maybe.
Pastrnak just got named Player of the Week again, or was the first star this week.
$250K a year, like I don't know,
not great.
You're looking. I will be shocked if this deal is under $12 million a year.
Yeah, I was going to say 12 is probably the base point because, again, it's not like he's taking dips where it's like, oh, he went this week without putting up any goals, had maybe an assist or 2, didn't look all that great. Every week, it's like you said, it's a hat trick. It seems like every other, or 2 goals every other night, a hat trick here and there. He's scoring a game-winning goals, obviously great in the power play per usual. Like, and it's more the same from him. And like I said, we've talked about it all season. The longer you wait on this, the worse it's going to be for Don Sweeney. If he maybe thinks he can get Pastrnak on some sort of discount, I think that ship has completely sailed. Like, you're going to have to pay this guy what he's worth and then some.
Yeah, and for anybody who might be worried about him becoming the most highest paid player in the league, I don't think that's going to be the case.
He knows the market, I feel like.
I think we're looking at 10.5 minimum, more so 12 minimum. But maybe somewhere in the middle, 11 and a half. Anything around there is fine. Give him a blank check. This has been the message from us. And tons of people out there for a while. Blank check, get it done. You got Zacha out of the way. Get Pasta done. Then you can worry about Frederick and Swayman in the offseason when you need them. Bergeron, Krejci, Foligno, whoever. If you want to bring Foligno back, that's an offseason priority. Just get it done now.
Yep.
But speaking of wingers, we had an interesting tweet from Brad Marchand last night. Ian McLaren had tweeted out, a hypothetical Bruins top 9 if they were to get Puljujarvi, who was healthy scratch the other night, been a subject of trade talks for much of this season. Falling out of favor, it seems, in Edmonton, and they're going to have a cap crunch, so moving his $3 million could really help them. I am personally not in the camp where I feel like we need Jesse Puljujarvi. Would I take him for a cheap price? Absolutely. But Marchand tweeted like the emoji in response to those forward lines, including Puljujarvi.
What do you know? I said, what do you know, Brad Marchand? What do you know?
What does he know? Or he's like, nah, we're good. Chris Johnson, NHL Insider, quoted him with the eyes emoji. So maybe that's Chris Johnson saying, oh, like, this is a little spicy from Brad Marchand, or maybe it's eyes emoji like, yeah, there is something to this. The Bruins are talking to the Oilers about Jesse Puljujarvi. I'd be okay with it, but I just don't see it happening. I see him ending up somewhere like Buffalo or Carolina, if I had to guess. Okay. I don't know. It's kind of hard to get a read on what Marchand is cluing at here with the emoji. What do you think? I'm on the side that he's like, nah, we're good.
Yeah, I mean, I know nothing about the player, so as you were talking, I had to go look up his stats and
he's also not playing good this year. So
that's what I mean. Yeah. Again, I know you're not a huge plus minus guy, so like whenever I bring that up, I bring it up with a grain of salt. But like the minus 13 sticks out to me. The 10 points in 45 games, not great. I mean, I'm not huge on them. Like DeBrusker's going to come back, so I'm not huge on them being like, you have to go out and get like a Patrick Kane type of guy or like light the world on fire here. Like a minor move is what I would lean towards for them. But looking at this guy's stats, I'll pass. No thanks. So I'm with you, Brad Marchand. No, thank you. Go away.
I really do like Puljujarvi when he's on top of his game. He had a much better season last year. He's a former 4th overall pick. I'm cool with Puljujarvi this year. I don't really think they need a forward addition, period.
Okay.
Maybe a depth piece. Maybe he is like a good third line piece they could add, but I don't know. Right now, I don't know why they would make a trade right now. I think, if they're going to make a move, it's going to be at the deadline. That move could also be in the form of Luke Schenn. They do have interest in Luke Schenn. I really don't. I mean, it's a guy with some playoff experience, a guy that blocks shots, hits. I'm fine with the defense. And if you need reinforcements, you have Mike Riley, you have Anton Strawman, you have Jakub Zaboral, and Jack Ashan. That's plenty of options.
That's the thing with
I don't
this
see
team.
a scenario where the Bruins have to shell out for an asset this year.
Well, that's what I was just going to ask you. That's the thing with this team. It's like, obviously we've heard it before where teams go into the trade deadline. And if, I don't want to cross sports, but like the Red Sox, you saw it last year where it's like guys wanted the trade or wanted the move made because they thought it would like re-energize the clubhouse, stuff like that. You always hear players talk about that. So like, there's always the risk of if you're in a position like the Bruins are in and you don't make a move, does that send some sort of message to the clubhouse or the locker room? But like you said, like where exactly is the biggest need for this team? Like you said, it's mainly just depth, and you have that in the system, especially like you said with the defenseman. Like, I mean, Mike Riley, that's not the flashiest name. Zaboral doesn't have the biggest, supporting when it comes to fans. It's again not a huge name. But like, yeah, I'm kind of with you. Like, I don't know what they would want to trade or who they would even trade for that would like make a huge difference. It's not like they have like, oh, this team desperately needs third line left wing or a number 2 defenseman. Like they have all these things. So
they're good.
Yeah, this is as complete as they've been.
Close to the cap too when DeBrusque
That's the
comes
problem
back.
too. Yep.
And you're not going to have an easy time getting rid of a guy like Craig Smith or getting rid of Mike Riley's contract. So I think the best thing for the Bruins is to stick with this group and maybe get a depth forward. Like it's a really cheap depth forward.
Yep.
At the deadline. That's where I'm at. Yes, Puljujarvi's not that type of guy. He makes $3 million. He's struggling. Do you want to have a reclamation project in the midst of a really good nucleus? I don't think you should.
Yeah, because then it comes down to who do you take out of the lineup for a guy like that? Like you have guys that are all playing pretty well. I know like Craig Smith's probably the obvious answer if you could move him, but like you said, it's going to be tough to. Like anybody else, there's really nobody on this lineup I would like want to take out because everyone, like you said, seems to be working pretty well together. These lines have been good throughout the entire season. There really hasn't been any weak link on any of them. So I'm with you. I'd go get a depth guy that, maybe has some tenure, maybe a veteran guy that has some more postseason experience just to help out in that department. Other than that, like I'm not, like you said, breaking the bank for anything big.
Nope. I don't think Puljujarvi will break the bank, but I don't think this is a team that needs to make that move. I think we're good to segue into some quick moments of the week thoughts before we wrap up the show. Mine was from last night. Ivan Provorov making Flyers Pride Night at the arena about himself, citing his religious beliefs for his reason to not wear a Pride jersey for 15 minutes in warmups. When other Russian players have had no problem doing so.
Maybe it's just me, but I don't know. This is maybe going to sound terrible, but part of me always feels like the religious beliefs thing is somewhat of a cop-out.
Yes, it is.
Like, okay, I'm glad you're good. I'm glad we're on the same page.
I think it is in this case because there has to be other players in the NHL that are like, this doesn't really line up with my religious beliefs either, but they suck it up for 15 minutes.
Do it.
It doesn't mean you support gay marriage or anything like that under that umbrella. It shows that you are comfortable wearing a jersey for 15 minutes that supports the LGBTQ2S plus community and the people in that community who support you and pay money to go to your games, buy your jerseys, whatever. All it does is bring awareness to their community and make them feel welcome in the arena and in the community of the fan base. Everybody else in your team did it besides you. You made it about yourself. And the funny thing is too, he's got his dog's Instagram account resharing photos of Gritty with a pride flag. Like, dude,
Okay,
come on.
read the room, know the situation, like
It's
be
just
less
like,
tone deaf, all the above.
and the Flyers played him, and guess who led the Flyers in ice time?
Probably him. That's a bad
Evan
look for the
Provorov.
Flyers. Yeah, it's not great.
And if you're the Islanders, that was a guy you could potentially trade, and now I don't imagine he has much.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
value.
I can't imagine that trade value took a pretty big hit, and I can't imagine most teams are going to be calling for a guy his caliber now.
Yeah,
Like,
you just don't.
You said
see
it's a
players
warm up
do
jersey,
this.
right? That's
It's a
what it
warm-up
is.
jersey.
So it's not like you're.
jersey.
And again, I'm not defending it, but like it's not like you're wearing it the entire night. You wear it for what, 10 minutes before the game?
Yeah, you wear it in
yeah.
warm-ups. That's it.
Yeah. Yep.
And especially when you have, I don't have all the details in front of me, but I think it's Scott Lawton and like James Van Riemsdyk just made this big pledge to an LGBT like fundraiser or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have Ivan Provorov
putting a complete damper on the thing,
doing crap like this and making it about himself, and John Tortorella defending him. Like,
well, that doesn't surprise me either. Like we talked about the headache that having him as the head coach was gonna potentially cause with that team. So like,
yeah. December 2nd, 2022, Flyers players Scott Lawton and James Van Riemsdyk founded the Flyers Pride Initiative. Throughout the season, they are hosting members of the LGBTQ plus community, gifting them with their own Flyers Pride gear and welcoming them for a post-game meet and greet. You have guys in your team doing that, then you have guys like friggin' Ivan Provorov who can't wear a jersey for 15 minutes. Like, what a
bad
joke.
Look.
What a joke. A bad
real
look
bad
for
look.
for the biggest train wreck of an organization in the league. It just it's so pathetic. It's so lame, and it's just embarrassing. It really is.
Yeah, I think you summed it up good. Like, I got nothing else to add. I'm right there with you. Like, it's such a, again, I come back to it. It's such a dumb excuse of a reason. Like you said, just suck it up. Whether you agree with it or not, wear the thing for the 15 minutes you got to wear it, and then like just be done with the situation. You don't even have to make a comment about it either. It's like you can just do it, get it over with, and then be done. Like, but nope, this is, like you said, you make it about yourself. And
yeah, and then the NHL comes out and says hockey is for everyone, is pretty much to say it's a blanket statement, and players are entitled to do things like this as they want. Like, fuck off, dude.
Like, no, that's not.
It's
good
wearing a
enough
jersey
either.
for 15 minutes. Your life will be okay. Like,
life will
so
go
stupid.
on. The sun will rise tomorrow.
Yeah,
Like,
so stupid.
Yeah.
A more positive moment of the week, depending on how you feel about the player, is
yeah, and the team.
The latest addition to the Red Sox, not the flashiest the last couple of years, but a guy that I've liked in the past, a guy that is, about a year or two removed from a really good season. And I'm fine with the addition is Adam Duvall, formerly of the Braves, I should say.
Yeah, they get him, World Series winner a couple of years ago with those Braves, signed a 1 year, $7 million deal today with incentives that can boost the deal to $10 million. I'm with you. It's a player I've liked. It's a player, it seems like really for the first time that the Red Sox have been linked to, that they reportedly were heavily linked to and heavily wanted and finally got. And frankly, it's a guy they desperately might be too strong depending on how you think the season's going to go. You and I are not high on this season, of course, if you listen to the show. But to me, it's a guy you had to go out and I'll say it, desperately get. This team, as we talked about, with Devers in the lineup and really just Devers, who is going to protect him, who is going to be that extra power bat to go with him. Duvall is going to be that guy. They needed a right-handed hitting outfielder to go along with Verdugo and Yoshida and Duran. If he's going to platoon in center field, which you have to think he's probably going to. Duvall is that guy, right-handed hitted power bat. You can stick him in the middle of the lineup. He mashes at Fenway Park, had the 3-homer game in the COVID year a couple years back. Plays pretty good defense. He's probably going to be your center fielder, your starting center fielder, which means Kike is going to probably be in the infield somewhere, whether that's short or second. That'll depend on if they go out and get a shortstop or go out and maybe get a guy like Iglesias or I saw Josh Harrison's name come up again, or Elvis Andrews.
I saw Andrelton Simmons, I think, as well.
Oh, I didn't see that. I wouldn't hate that move. Good defender.
I saw someone say Simmons, and I figured it was him unless there's another Simmons I don't know about.
Not that I can think of. That's a shortstop. No, I got nobody. But yeah, I mean, again, like you said, it depends on how you think of the player. Duvall, not a great season last year, just a 213 average in 86 games, 12 homers, 36 RBIs. You mentioned it. They're obviously trying to get back to where he was 2 years ago. when he played in 146 games, had 38 home runs, 113 RBIs that I believe led the National League, and won a Gold Glove in the outfield as well in a split season between the Marlins and the Braves. If they can get anywhere near that, then that deal is going to be a win. But like I said, right now it's just it's kind of one of those moves. It's a 1-year deal. If they stink, it's Adam Duvall. He tends to get traded right around the trade deadline, so that would fit the narrative with him if the Red Sox, maybe want to move him for something else coming down the line. But yeah, it's a move you don't get overly excited about because it's not a flashy name, but a move that they had to make, had to pad their lineup a little bit. The other move they made too, I didn't have in the outline, was they signed a catcher by the name of Jorge Alfaro to a minor league deal. I like that one too.
Like a rock star.
He does. He looks like a caveman. Like if you saw the video going on Twitter, I don't know if he was playing over.
He's got a great swing.
In Cuba. He does. Great swing. He was playing in one of those, not fall ball leagues, but you know what I mean? Like overseas, winter ball. I don't know why I couldn't think of the season. Had a wicked bat flip in that. So he's a pretty fiery guy. I like that move too. It gives him some depth at the catching position. Minor league guy with an invite to spring training. So, not on the 40-man roster, but has a chance to get there with a good spring training. They needed some catching depth, some guy with some experience. They get that in him as well. So two maybe under the radar type of moves, but 2 moves they had to make and end up being, solid moves. When it comes to like a ruling type of thing, because it is moments of the week, it's good enough for me. Again, it's not a flashy name. It's not going to light the world on fire, but a move they had to make and gives you a little bit more to look forward to in their lineup, makes it a little bit more dangerous and a little deeper than it was 24 hours ago.
Yeah, I think it's a good stabilizer piece for them.
Absolutely.
A guy, if they can get to bounce back, that contract looks really nice. I just looked at Andrelton Simmons stats, and I don't know why anybody would want him. His last 2 seasons have been fucking brutal.
He was, do you have him up there right now?
I had him.
I'm trying to think of who he played for.
He played for the Cubs last year.
Yeah.
And man, these last 2 seasons.
Did his offensive stats take that bad of a hit? Because I knew it was trending downward 2 years ago, but
he only played 34 games this year, which is worth noting. But 7 RBIs, 173 batting average. The year before, 3 home runs, 31 RBIs in 131 games, 223 batting average, and then the year before he hit 297, but had 0 home runs and 10 RBIs in 30 games. So
yeah, he's never been a big bat, more defensive type of guy.
Over the hill for me.
Yeah, he's what? How old? You still have it up there? Sorry,
33.
I at this point, I know Andrews is probably. I think he's older. But I've come around to Elvis Andrews. I'd come around to having Jose Iglesias come back again. Just that would be the last move I think they need to make, is go get some sort of infield depth, because I like Christian Arroyo. I know a lot of people are like, oh, people are sleeping on Christian Arroyo. He's going to have a great year. I don't doubt that. I doubt his ability to stay in the lineup. Like, the guy's great when he's in there, good defender, but he just can't stay healthy. So you need some sort of middle infield depth, whether that's Iglesias or, like I said, Elvis Andrews. I don't want Josh Harrison. Ha-Seong Kim's going to cost too much money.
I thought you love Josh Harrison. Oh no, you're Josh Bell, or who's the Bell guy?
Yeah, Josh Bell.
Like Josh Bell. Yeah. I get them mixed up. I don't know why.
Yeah, both Joshes. Yep. Both play the same side of the infield, second baseman, first baseman. So, but yeah, just because we didn't get to talk about that. Ha-Seong Kim, I would not trade for him because they want, the report I saw was Tanner Houck and like 2 or 3 other top prospects. So like, no thanks on that. The question I had for you, because I made the TikTok on it, I didn't know in the closing Red Sox thoughts here, if you had any thoughts on the whole Trevor Story debacle. Because again, like I said, from the TikTok on that, just to, if people missed it, briefly some of my thoughts on that again. Bullshit that the Red Sox didn't know that he was injured going into the offseason. He should have got the surgery when the season ended, and not had the Red Sox sit on their hands and let every free agent shortstop sign before it finally came out that, right around Christmas time, Trevor Story felt his elbow go, and now he needs Tommy John surgery. So
I am in the exact same camp as you.
All right, fair enough.
It's a weird situation. One thing I did want to mention in baseball, though, is shout out to Travis Shaw, retired.
I did see that. Yesterday, today, when did he?
One of my favorite baseball nicknames. Yesterday, retired. That Travis Shaw era was a lot of fun.
It was. The second time around was not great, but when he first came up, thought he was going to be the next, big guy, because he had a really good rookie season, was pretty good in his second season, and then they made a really bad trade, trading him away for, I think it was Tyler Thornburg or whatever that bum's name was that never worked out. I think Travis Shaw hit like 30 home runs that first year with the Brewers or whatever it was. It was like, wow, that trade was bad. And then never really found it after that. But yeah, solid major leaguer, good career for him. Wish him the best in retirement.
Absolutely. I think that's going to wrap it up for episode 126. Good to be back. You can find us wherever you find your podcasts. You can find us on Twitter. You can find me at Mike_Cratty, Ryan at Ryan_Salvaggio, and the show at Salvaggio and Cratty Pod. You can watch on Twitch and YouTube whenever we go live around 7:20 every Wednesday night. You can follow us there as well on the Full Press pages. Thank you for the support. Hopefully we didn't lose any people in the week off we had to take, but welcome back. I'm looking forward to getting back in the swing of things, and we will talk to you next week. Stay safe, stay healthy, be nice people, all that good stuff, and we'll talk to you next week. Peace out.